When I was born in 1982, it was illegal to be gay. Jeff Dudgeon was on his way for the second time to the European Court of Human Rights. One man and some activists gave me the right not to be a criminal in my own country. I wouldn't have been able to be the lawyer I am today. I would have been a criminal. During the 1990s, at the time, I was only aware of two LGBT events, two historic events. One was that two women kissed in Brookside, and for the more youthful in the audience, it was kind of like Hollyoaks, but the people were poorer and they didn't wear very much makeup. That was in 1994. I'll pause here to say that I didn't realize that I was gay, a little bit like what Sally said. She didn't realize, I didn't realize. I knew that I felt different, but I wasn't sure what it was. It was a bit like Graham Norton, his story that he felt that he wasn't like others, but he thought that it was because he was a Protestant in Catholic Ireland. The second event, well, it's a bit odd. So I grew up in Saintfield and in Belfast, and I'd grown up watching places I knew blow up, sitting in cars while growing up shocked. I remember my mum's handbag being checked going into CNA. This news was different. It had my surname, Copeland. That's a fairly rare surname, and I didn't know any Copelands that I wasn't related to. And I sat back and listened, and it was the news. David Copeland, and most of my family have neutral or biblical names. I'm the real outlier with Jude, and I wasn't sure if he was related to me. Perhaps was he my cousin? Was he one of the Belfast Copelands who all look the same, the ones that I can't tell apart? David Copeland had exploded a nail bomb in a gay bar in London. People died, people were injured, they were in a gay bar, but that was far enough away. I couldn't be related to somebody that far away. One thing that I did take from it was that being gay was a really, really bad thing. Not that I realized that's what it was 1999. Fast forward 20 years to 2019, much happier with my life. I realized that people are different and that being LGBT plus does not increase or decrease your value or your humanity. And I was working in London for a bit as a lawyer, going to really lovely places, getting to know the places that I'd seen on TV. I'm now apparently, and I use the word apparently, I mean, I've been told by many people that I am a nightmare to watch TV with. I've been there, they have the worst pints. Oh, there's a lovely place around the corner. Jude, stop talking. We know that you've been to London. And I was in London, and on my Facebook up popped an event, 20th anniversary Soho bombing. I had been to the Admiral Duncan and had fallen in love with it. Drag 7 nights a week, the only place in London to still do that. It's a really, really narrow bar, and it's narrower than like a wee Belfast terraced house, and it has a really, really low ceiling. It's quite dark, and to be honest, it's a bit manky during the day. My mum would not approve of their cleaning routine. The black barman always finds my accent really, really funny, and my drinks orders funnier. Apparently, nobody other than me orders Iron Brew and vodka in there. So it's really, really grim, really, really dull. But when the performers come on, wow, the place just lights up. The glittery walls come alive as if reacting to some of the high notes in the power ballads. The drag queens chat and make gentle fun, knowing just who is there for a laugh. They belt out tunes. They're not like RuPaul. They don't do lip sync. That is not a London thing. The door staff are so, so pleasant. Everything is accepted, and everyone is accepted, and everyone is wonderful, and everyone is treated that way. But the anniversary, I signed up to this commemoration. There was a gentle breeze. It was warm and a little sunny, and it was sunny enough for me to hear my mum's voice in my head saying that I should probably be wearing sun cream. I'd been really, really busy with work, and I'd gone into autopilot. So I got the Central Line to Tottenham Court Road, got out, got signal, walked up all of the shops that I knew, past the pizza place where my friend Chris brought me to one night. It was the worst pizza I have ever had. I'm just really glad that I didn't pay for it. I passed the largest Weatherspoons in the UK, which I've never been in and will never go to. And I could feel the emotion welling up inside me. It wasn't beaches or steel magnolias level sadness. It was just this tiny lump in my throat and a little bit of moisture. It's like at the back of my eyes. And I turned into Old Compton Street. It was a place that I'd had so many lovely days and nights. The road was cordoned off just as it would have been 20 years ago, except people were living and not dying. I walked closer to the Admiral Duncan and stood a discreet distance. People were milling around, chatting. Muscled men were wearing shirts, not the type of thing that you would see in Belfast most of the time. Most people had suits. A man and his partner were talking beside me with a woman. They were really pleased to see her. And I thought that they hadn't seen each other for a little while. I don't know what it was about them, but I watched them really, really closely. The man was really well dressed. He smiled at me, one of those thin smiles that is both happy and sad, and they just continued their conversation. Another man joined them, and there were introductions, a stranger to this couple. I was close enough to hear the conversation, and the volume of the man's voice dipped, and he said, I was there that night. I was standing at the bar. And I glanced up to the rainbow flag silently moving above the window. I took photos because I wanted to remember that moment. Then I fell off the curb after a dick bumped into me. It was Dame Cressida Dick, a lesbian and the head of the Metropolitan Police Service, and her bodyguards. The service was wonderful and warm. It was like a dignified hug. People were telling stories of that day 20 years ago. It was a simultaneous history, but also living. Choirs sang beautiful songs. I lost count of the number of choirs. In my head, I felt like Louis Walsh secretly judging them. I remember Bridge Over Troubled Waters, and the higher you build the barriers, the stronger I become. The sun was shining, but lowering in the sky. We filed down Old Compton Street for the next part. We passed Balance. I was thinking about this lovely gin champagne lavender drink. I mean, anybody who knows me, there's always a drink involved, but it's always very good. Still thinking about it, I turned the street corner. There was a guard of honor of firemen, and it seemed to stretch to Chinatown. We went into the church grounds, and there were prayers and more singing. It was really, really beautiful. There were loads of proud mummies of the LGBT children trying to outdo each other. There was so much love and so much sadness. It wasn't a, this wasn't a commemoration. This was a celebration of life and resilience and community. A community that you can automatically be part of if you just come in and say hello. An accepting community. There was a row of performers in the corner of the graveyard, and they were all in drag. It was like, who could be the most Jackie Kennedy one of them? One of the drag queens, one of my favorites, walked past me and tripped and said, Jesus, I can't see a thing in these sunglasses. So I took her arm and we walked out. David Copeland was a neo-Nazi. The Soho bomb was his third attempt at hatred. He had aimed for black people in Brixton. He had aimed for Muslims in Brick Lane. both hadn't worked. John Light died in that bombing. Nick Moore died in that bombing. Andrea Dykes and her unborn child died in that bombing. Over 70 people were injured. One of them, the barman, David Morley, or Cinders to his friends, survived, but 5 years later was beaten to death by a homophobic gang. But hate doesn't win. If it did, the LGBT community, and I'm stressing the T at the end of the LGBT community, would be long gone. We are resilient, and when I'm in the Admiral Duncan now, I look up at the blue plaque at the entrance, and it says Queer Heritage, the Admiral Duncan pub, 3 people killed, 70 injured by a neo-Nazi nail bomber, 30th of April, 1999. No part of my name is on it. I'm nothing like him.